Good morning, everyone. Charles McNamara here. Really looking forward to talking with today's guest, security professional with decades of experience working in some different locations than what we normally talk about. Has a lot of experience in the nightclub life, working and protecting shelters, as well as office buildings and C-suite properties. This gentleman today, Cesar Santiago, is a great guy. We're really looking forward to talking with him. Also going to talk a little bit about security guard management. Very important. Cesar has a wealth of knowledge on today's episode. We're going to dive right in, get to know the training staff, what makes a good security instructor. And this individual teaches a lot of other things as well. You know, we're going to get into this. We'll ask Cesar those very hard questions in just a few minutes. We'll get to know him as well. Cesar Santiago, good morning. How are you?
Charles. I'm good. Early start to the morning, but this is not early, right? 10 o'clock. We're here. We're shaking.
Halfway done. You know me. I'm up 0-500. We're ready to rock and roll. We're going to get into the common traits of a great instructor. Preparing for today's episode, I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about you and what you're doing with Guardian Group Services. Almost 500 students that you have taught with us just this year alone. What makes a great instructor, right? Someone who's confident, knows the material, who's always professional and always humble, which literally is you, right?
Thank you.
Michelle. So Cesar, let's kind of jump into some of the questions, get to know you and your background, what you've been doing. I know that you've managed large security teams throughout your career. And in the nightclub scene, we're going to jump into those questions because that's a whole different ball game, a little bit tougher sometimes. You've managed teams working at shelters. You've managed security teams working in high-rise corporate buildings. But let's get to know you, Cesar. Where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm from Long Island, New York. I can't say I grew up in a city. Right?
We won't hold that against you in the five barrels.
Yeah. I'll get blasted in the comment section. No, I'm from Long Island. A small town called Brentwood. I grew up there, and in the last 3 years, I moved out to Brooklyn, and then now Manhattan. So we're having a great time out here, and definitely we see the need for security everywhere out here.
Absolutely. We'll talk about your background and all of the things that you teach, but let's kind of talk a little bit about all of the courses that you do teach right now. I know the security program is one. You do fire safety. You took part in an OC spray class as well. So tell everybody, what are you certified to teach? What are you teaching these days?
Yeah, so like you said, the preliminary courses to get your security license, right? That's the 8 and the 16-hour course, right? 8-hour pre-assignment, 16-hour OTJ. I do the 8-hour annuals, and I've been doing the fire safety portion as well. Here in the 5 boroughs, FDNY requires us to have certain certificates of fitness given the buildings that we work in, and I'm certified in teaching those fire safety courses as well. Narcan, I'm certified in training and distributing Narcan, which is very important in the nightclub environment, right? Sometimes you can't always stop what people are doing before they get to you, right? So you have to be able to mitigate that situation, and one of those ways is through Narcan. So I train all our employees and our staff to properly administer Narcan. And then also, given my shelter experience, I'm going to start teaching that 40-hour DHS course to guards all over the 5 boroughs to better prepare them for the real world environment of working in a shelter.
Awesome, great experience. I know when I was putting this together, you kind of gave me a good outline on kind of 2 different jobs really. Your management experience in security and then your training experience. They do kind of coincide and combine, but you said it perfectly. When we talk about Cesar, what you're all about, you recruit, you find the talent, you interview, You make sure you get the right person and hire them. You train them, and then once they're hired and onboarded, you kind of have to supervise them in different environments. So that also kind of ties into your training experience. You mentioned the 40-hour shelter program. A lot of individuals and professionals I spoke to in the industry aren't aware of some of the compliance pieces. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later for security managers, right? Security managers, security professionals, C-suite, whatever you want to take as your title. There's really three things they've got to know: risk assessment and mitigation. They've got to know how to deal with personnel, training and development, because once you get them, you can't just leave them there. You got to put them on a path to succeed. And probably the most important thing at the end, compliance and legal regulations or requirements. So that's like just the shelters. You mentioned it as well with the fire department. Some buildings have to have people with an F80 for the shelters. You deal with fire guards, FO1s, FO2s, FO3s, FO4s, right, depending upon the venue.
Mm-hmm.
F89 for FLSD. So there's like a whole alphabet soup with just the fire department. And compliance with your guard license, right? Staying up to date with your training. I know that's always like pulling teeth with some guards. Got to do your annual. You got to do your annual. You got to do it now, otherwise your license expires.
Yeah.
So I always like to kick things off. Those who know me, I always like to jump in the training classes when we do them online or in person. Why did the security guard bring a ladder to work? Do you know this one, Cesar?
Why did I? No, I do not. You always have a really good anecdote or a really good joke to throw in in the classes that really like resets and gets everybody thinking. I'm excited to hear the answer to this.
I'm gonna answer this. I'm pretty sure someone will jump in the comments who's watching live. But why did the security guard bring a ladder to work? Because he wanted to go to the next level of security. Always with the fun jokes. Got to keep it fun and entertaining. In all seriousness, though, preparing for this, I've done this a few times through my career. I like, statistics and numbers, something that's tangible. And while putting this together, I checked with New York State Division of Licensing Services as well as the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Right now, there are approximately 200,000 licensed security guards in New York State.
Wow.
For the entire state. Big number. So, right, great, I got my license. Now what do I do? Right, I got to find a good employer. I got to get good quality training. And you're definitely the man to speak to today. We talked a little bit about the types of training that you provide. You kind of do it all, but we're going to get into the nitty gritty and ask you some questions. So, number one, right, why were you interested in becoming an instructor?
Yeah, so like many other security guards, becoming a security professional, I really wasn't thinking about that, right? That really wasn't my goal. I actually wanted to be a sound engineer, or I wanted to be in sound artist management. I even went to an audio school to try to break into the music industry and so on and so forth. But at that time, nobody told me those jobs were oversaturated and required more elbow grease than studying books, which is what I was doing. Anyway, so that being a hard industry to get into, I fell back on my security experience. My neighbor had a security company. He offered me a job a while ago, and I fell back into that. And I started doing security again, and eventually I got to the point where I said to myself, well, if I'm going to be in this industry for X amount of years, I have to get the most out of this, right? I've never been the kind of person who just settles for the bare minimum. And I had to start figuring out how I can make the most out of my years of experience in security, right? From doing those foot posts, those corporate posts, and whatnot. And I had to figure out what the next step was, how I can grow. And through some research, instructing came about, right? I had all the experience. Now, what do I do with that? Do I continue to clock in, clock out Monday through Friday, or do I take that experience and give it to other people, and hopefully help them grow their professional career like I was doing in the moment. So I started becoming interested in the instructor aspect of security um, because one, I needed that upward mobility. I need to make something of myself, and two, I saw a lot of guards throughout my time who would have who would have benefited greatly from the proper training and a proper instructor who really put in their effort to impart knowledge onto all the other security guards out there.
Awesome. For me personally, I joke around and I say this all the time. As I started my career, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I became a guard, and then I was like, well, what's the next step, right? Do I become a supervisor or do I become an instructor? For me personally, I was all about the money. Hey, you know what? I could make a lot of money, becoming an instructor on the side. I always kind of worked two jobs. I've done the security work, and then I would always do the teaching stuff. I've kind of, always married those two together. For me, I was just happy to kind of obviously make some extra money through my career, but I built a lot of really good professional relationships in real estate in New York City with law enforcement, with military. We do a lot of emergency management operations, especially in like Midtown. Really cool stuff. And, it's really nice to kind of like network and get out there. One of the best things I was able to take part in my career was with CERT, the Community Emergency Response Teams in Brooklyn. Really, really fun stuff. They put you through a whole disaster scenario. So my process was fun. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I always like to tell individuals, you may not know what you want to do now, but there's a lot of room to grow in this industry. So I'd like to know for you, with the different trainings that you do, what was the process like for those who might want to become an instructor? What was the process for you to become an instructor with New York State, with the pepper spray classes and some of the other things that you teach?
Yeah, so each certification in security, whether it be a security license, your fire safety certificates of fitness, that OC training, right? There's a corresponding course that you take, and you get certified in whatever that specific course you are taking. Me personally, I think the first step, right? The first step in the process is getting the experience, right? Doing those foot patrols, doing those corporate gigs, being on the site, and just seeing how things run, and how and in your position in that specific site. So that's the first thing, right? Get the experience, and really learn on the job, right? And then the second thing, right? Those courses. Those courses are everything. I tell people all the time, get as many certifications as you can. It contributes to your professionalism, and it makes you more marketable when you're sitting in front of an employer. So for me, when I decided I wanted to become an instructor, I looked up the process. There's a 40-hour IDC course, um, an instructor development course, and you go there. Just you go to a school similar to Guardian Group. I'm sure we do those courses as well. Um, you go there for a week. You sit with like-minded individuals who are passionate about security, and and you learn what it takes to become an instructor. And I actually have a funny anecdote for this portion of it. My last day of this 5-day class, we had to do a presentation, and we had to come in a business suit. And when I got in my car to leave, I put one leg in the car, and my pants split open on the last day of this IDC course. So this, I put on some regular pants, and then I went, and I looked a little silly, but I completed the course. I got the certification, and here I am now. So, um, you know, throughout this process, you might you might hit some bumps in the road, but it's important to keep going, keep striving, and always, always do your best to learn more.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I tell everybody in this industry, especially in security, things happen. It's how you respond to them.
Yeah.
We kind of always have to be behind the eight ball, and we always got to be like prepared and on point. Stuff happens. We have to be ready to respond, no matter what it is. So we're always going through plans and what happens if this happens. What do I do if this happens? What happens if that happens?
Yeah.
And always have a backup. Great story. Um, I was very happy to have you join us when we did that instructor development course for the self defense and OC spray. That was a tough week. I think almost all the instructors that were there, they were doing doubles. I know that you were teaching that week as well. You came in on a Saturday for a long 10-hour class. Our other instructors, Tanda Rhodes was there. Andy November was there. I was there. It was a fun group.
It was. It was.
And I got to say, I'm so glad that I was not the person who got shot in the face with the pepper spray this time around. But
Yeah.
it's a learning experience.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. And like I said, sitting with like-minded people, right? Everybody in that class was eager to learn more, and sometimes in the introductory level courses, some people don't know exactly what they want to do, so they're a little bit hesitant to speak up and to get involved. This wasn't the case. Everybody was involved. We all had a good time.
yeah, I think with the instructor classes, everybody's a little more, forward-facing, ready to get involved. Sometimes if you're a new guard, you're in the cut in the back, like, yo, don't pick on me. I don't want to be bothered. But things will happen if you're out there in the field. So you gotta kind of put yourself out there a little bit.
Yeah.
So you have a great experience, Caesar. You've worked everywhere, in every type of discipline. You've had the ability to be a manager in a lot of different locations and a lot of critical locations throughout the city and the state. I know that you've managed some large shelters. You were also a manager at New York Blood Center, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep.
Do you know your blood type? Very important.
No, I do not. I do not, and I work there. It's
Oh my
embarrassing.
gosh, this guy. Oh my, you got to know your blood type, folks. And listen, be a donor. Know your blood type. One donation can save 3 lives. So good to know. But how did your previous experience get you prepared as your role as an instructor?
Oh, it prepared me to be an instructor by giving me that real life experience. Every site that I went to, even if it was a similar type of building, had its own specific procedures and specific guidelines. No two sites are alike. Like no two fingerprints are alike. It's the same thing with security and the environments we work in. So each one brought something new to the table. Um, for example, when I managed the security at Estee Lauder, right, the manufacturing plant, I never was in charge of alcohol spill alarms, right? They had big rooms with 2,000 kilos of pure alcohol and one little spark and everything goes off, right? So, it's kind of like a David and Goliath feeling on the first day, but once you get into the swing of things, you start learning your position and the different types of procedures that site entails. You get used to it, and then and if you're diligent enough, you get everything down pat pretty quickly.
I kind of made some notes. I wanted to put you on the spot on risk assessment, right? We always got to know what we're facing. So that's a good example, right? That's a big fire hazard with what you have in there. So obviously, but other folks may not know. You've got to know your building's fire protection system, the sprinklers and the standpipe and the command station. It may not be your job specifically to operate that panel, but you should kind of know the proper procedures, right? On, if there is a fire, what do I do, right? It's my job to kind of quarantine the area. It's my job to wait for first responders to arrive. So I'm going to put you on the spot. We'll talk about your other locations. When you worked as a manager at a shelter, what was like the biggest risk working for the shelter location?
So I would say in the shelter environment, the biggest risk there is, well, the one that I worked in was a family shelter. We had 300 units. Each unit has anywhere from 3 to 6 people in it, right? And since it's a family shelter, there was a lot of kids. So as we all know, those are the most important ones that we have to look after and make sure that they're, safe and secure. So I would say the biggest risk in the shelter is making sure that none of the kids get lost, wander off into outside of the building, and we should stay vigilant and keep an eye on them. You know, so that's the
You know,
biggest risk for me in the family shelter.
I would definitely agree. Smaller children and elderly people, for those watching
Yes.
live or later on, drop a comment. What do you think is the biggest risk working and securing a shelter? I'm going to jump on to the next one, with your experience. What about the nightclubs? I know you work in some pretty fancy spots throughout the city. Um, Growing up in the 90s and 2000s,
Yeah.
clubs in New York City was amazing. And it's changed over the years. So, what do you think are the biggest challenges or risks working security at a club?
Well, right now the biggest risk I would think, that I see, right, is one, drug overdoses. Right. Again, we screen people before they come into the building. We make sure that they don't have any illegal contraband on them, but we have no control over what they did before they come to the venue. So a lot of them may not be um, intoxicated or on a typical drug when we get to the when we see them, but whatever they ingested before will take hold sometime after they get into the building, right? So I'm always walking around in the building, looking at people who seem to be too intoxicated, who seem to be losing their legs, right? They get, I call it spaghetti legs. Once I see that they got the spaghetti legs, I'm like, all right, we gotta we gotta get this person out of here, right? And then the second one is the safety of our patrons, right? A couple weeks ago, it's a nightclub environment. There's alcohol involved. People are trying to have fun, and they get a little too rowdy. And there was a physical altercation between some people, right? And in that aspect, well, in that situation, my main concern, right, is the safety of the patrons, right? And are my guards trained to deal with that, right? Some guards would just jump in, try to break it up, but the intelligent guards are the ones who take a step back, right? And they say, okay, how can I protect life and protect property, right? Because that's our job as security officers, right? And maybe they take a step back, close the barricades, bring everybody in the smoking section inside the building, right, so that nobody gets physically injured. So it's drug overdoses and physical injuries are the two top risks in the venue environment, in the nightclub environment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I follow, I'm in a lot of different networks, but there's a really good Facebook group with bouncers for New York City, and they talk about tactics all of the time and just things you don't even consider. We as professionals always try to think risk assessment and mitigation of, before an event, during, what am I doing if something happens, and then what do I do after? So everyone's like, oh, I just write a report. Yeah, that's after the fact. Like, what are you doing in the heat of the moment
Yes.
to protect life and property? Guardian Group Services, we offer an opioid uh, awareness and overdose course, self-guided. I think everybody should take that. Definitely Narcan. You can get that through the city. Great training. And, that's kind of another route, in training. You learn a little bit more and more about medical emergencies. Really good stuff. Everybody wants to learn, self-defense. How do I throw hands? How do I choke somebody out? That's kind of like the last resort. You don't want to always be in those situations. You don't want that mindset. I'm going to go to a job and get in a fight every day.
Mm. Yeah,
Then you
no.
then you look for one.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
um,
I'm always telling guards. I'm always telling guards that your best tool is your communication skills. Right. We don't want to
Absolutely.
get into any physical altercations. That has to be the last resort.
Absolutely. So, I always find this as a really good question, and I always enjoy hearing the responses. Um, Everybody should have a mentor, and everybody should be trying to mentor somebody coming up along the ranks. It's important in this field, especially. Things change, technology changes, management changes, but I would love to know, Caesar, who has had the most positive influence on your career and why?
Forgive me, but I'm going to give what sounds like an overly generalized answer to this question, but I really mean this. Um, I don't mean to just say everybody, right? But so first off, I can't point to one person, right? It's on one side of it, I have my family, right, from my grandparents who raised me, from my mother um, who is an amazing person. My aunt, my little cousins, some of them are figuring life out. Some of them have life figured out, and my family in its entirety definitely uh, influenced my decision to really grow professionally in this career of security. Why? Well, because if I can carve out a path for myself, I know that they can too, right? My grandparents who raised me, right? If I show them that I'm doing great, then they can rest easy and know I'm okay. So that my whole family really positively influenced my career. And then the second group of people I would say that positively influenced my career is every security guard that I've ever worked with, right? Um, from the person that I'm sorry, from the indecisive young person with no direction, right, that I used to be, right, back in the day, from the hardworking college student who's fallen asleep because they just got off a double, right, from the single parent who's trying to make ends meet. I'm telling you, I see, seen all characters in this industry, right? Um, the elderly person who wants to get out the house, the retired law enforcement who served our city, and is now just looking for a little extra income afterwards. All these people positively influence my career because if I can bring attention to the profession of security and I can grow the new security guards coming in, I can help them grow their professional career. Right, the whole industry in its entirety will come out. Will be more respected, right? And people always say we're the first line of defense, right? And I want people, and it's true. I want people to take that job seriously. So all these people that I've ever worked with, right? I think about them. I think about wanting them to get to the next level in their careers, to be able to provide for themselves and their family, and that just kind of keeps me going. Nice. So I know that's a lot. I know some that may sound corny, but it's the truth.
Yeah, it's important to have that family structure, and you're right. A lot of security guards sometimes forget that the job is the job. Don't bring that home to you with your family.
Mhm.
And it's good to have a supporting family that understands what you do, can have those conversations, kind of like decompress with them. Really, really good answer. And it was specific. It wasn't general. It was a really good specific answer.
In the beginning, it's like everybody influenced me, but I could point to. I see these people in my head all the time.
And probably every day, right?
Yeah, and every day. Yeah.
We're always trying to stay up to date with trends, things going on in the industry. I always tell people, the funny story, like how we did patrols back in the day was with the old Watchman Morse code keys. You'd have a key ring that weighs like 50 pounds. You just had to be super brolic, and carry this thing. Now, what do you do on patrol? You just scan a bunch of QR codes. Guards think they're smarter than the average bear. They'll steal all the QR codes or take pictures and sit at the desk. And
No,
listen, always
I've
going to get
caught
caught.
doing that. I've caught a few guys doing that.
My job is to always find out, how somebody's going to disrupt what they're not supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
and catch them. But what do you do to stay up to date with industry trends, changes, laws?
Well, similar to what we were talking about with the OC training, right? I put myself around like-minded individuals,
Hmm.
right? People that want to pursue a career in security, people that want to grow their knowledge, people that are not going to take one course and be like, I know everything now, right? Right? People who are humble and understand that security is ever changing, and yeah, those are the people you want to have that meeting of the minds with, right? We'll talk about current events. We'll talk about different changes in rules, regulations, and law, and through that dialogue with those like-minded professionals, you start to get a better idea on what's happening, in the moment and what's happening in your environment around you.
Yeah. At Guardian, we're always, kind of adding to our calendar. I think right now we have a total of like 17 different training classes that we do every month. There's a schedule for everybody. So if you're looking to become a guard, we have a package that you can purchase. If you need to renew your license, that's available as well. If you are in the industry and you kind of want to make a few more bucks, I always tell everybody, go get your F80, go get your F89. Easiest way to probably double your salary if you get with the right company.
Yes,
OSHA,
absolutely.
uh, construction OSHA 30 hour, the SST. If you're not sure, if you want to stay in this field and branch out, we do so many different things. You check out our website. We have everything listed there at guardiangroupservices.com. And there's more to come. We don't stop. We have some more things. We just rolled out the self-defense OC spray, and now we're doing the CCW classes as well.
Mm, great.
So, we have a online training course. We have an in-person training course. We do hybrid, a little bit of everything. But what are your thoughts on in-person versus online training? Because I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of comments on this one, but I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yeah. So I'm 50-50 on this. There's pros and cons to both. The in-person class offers a more lively setting, and it gives you the opportunity to connect on a human level, right, face to face. You're there with the person. It's a little bit more involved. Uh, but and I speak to a lot of training schools, and they'll say, "Oh, we don't want to do online training because it's hard to keep people's attention and so on and so forth." I think that's up to the instructor to keep the students' attention, no matter what medium you're teaching over, right?
Sure.
So for the online, I think the benefit for that is, maybe you do lose some people, right? And with the lack of attention span, it's difficult, right? You're on computer for 8 hours a day. We understand that, um, but I think the benefit, and it's hard to top this, to online training is the convenience, right? A lot of people, they're working two jobs, or they're taking care of their family, or they have kids, or they have a lot of stuff to do. So when you teach online, it gives people another option, right, to pursue a different type of goal. And I think that's great that we're doing that, right? We're reaching out to a whole section of people who probably don't have the time to leave their house, go to a school, sit down, take the 8 hour course, take the train all the way back, right? It gives them the convenience to do this in the comforts of their home. And, as long as you're paying attention and you're doing what you're supposed to do, uh, they should be fine. So, so in person is more personable, right? And then online is more convenient, and it offers people who may not have had the chance to break into this industry, right? It gives them another outlet to pursue it.
Sure. I think a lot of the comments, for this topic that will come up, especially from our students, they love the in-person for that reason. Scheduling wise, some, I would say most probably work a shift, either 7 to 3 or 3 to 11 or 11 to 7. They just might be able to get off post to make it in person for a class, but a lot of times individuals working 8 to 4 or 4 to 12. So traveling might be an issue for them. So the online is always a great option. Um, and I always tell everybody, man, if you missed out on that opportunity in the beginning of the year to advance your career, you might miss out on making, $10,000 a year more, right? You do a class online, you get your certifications and do what you need to do to kind of go up to the next level, to bring it back to the corny joke from the beginning. Online,
That's a good callback. That's a good callback.
it's a sign of a good instructor, right? You got to keep everything relevant.
Yeah.
In person has challenges. Sometimes people still doze off in class. They might have a long day because we're all human. But, teaching is teaching, right? You have to kind of have a toolbox with different tools and different icebreakers and jokes, things to keep people engaged. I've been in a few in-person classes where I'm literally just ready to fall asleep, and that's all I do. It's train, train, train. I'm a student as well. I like to learn, and the funny thing is, I hated school. I dropped out of high school, just could not stand school at all, and now that's all I do: teach and train.
Now you're an instructor. It's funny how it works out, right?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm being punished, and now I know better. Um, Students over the years, how many have you trained? I know how many with us, but you've been doing this for a decade.
Yeah, too many to count. I'm sure if I go through my old rosters, I can get an exact number, but too many to count. Too many to count. Even before, you know, you actually start as an instructor way before you get the actual credentials of an instructor, right? If you're a site supervisor, a shift supervisor, or a site manager, that's really where the instruction begins, right? You're giving security officers their tasks. You're probably taking them around the building. You're showing them different functions of the building and different key areas. So you're really teaching them in that moment, and you don't even know it, right? So I always tell people if you have, 5 plus, 10 plus years in security, what are you doing? You probably have trained somebody,
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form. Right? Go all the way, get your instructor certification, and impact those lives. So how many? Definitely in the upwards to hundreds and hundreds of people. And then
Yeah,
hopefully this year I hit the thousands.
so true. A lot of people don't see it that way. I would say you should kind of have a plan, like, what are you doing this year, and then what are you doing next year? You should kind of be working, yourself up that ladder, just to have the knowledge. But let's be realistic. People want to make more money. It's a great way to do it. If you are a supervisor, you said it best. You're teaching and training somebody. They're a reflection of you and the company. Uh, to talk about training and a little bit more about your background in education. You got your criminal justice degree. We'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so just from Suffolk Community College. It's a community college out by where I grew up in Brentwood. Um, and yeah, we took a bunch of criminal justice courses, and it really gave me a more understanding of the different laws procedurally and what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do. The criminality aspect of it too, right? Understanding why people do certain things and how they carry it out. But it was an interesting time. I was a security guard before that, and
Mhm.
uh, and that's another great thing about security. You can be in security. It's flexible schedules, and you could go get your degree as well. So yeah, a big
Yeah,
thank you to Suffolk County Community College. And one thing I tell people all the time too is one reason why I like security. Yes, I have a criminal justice associate's degree from a community college, but you could come into this industry with little to no educational experience. You have to have a high school diploma, but outside of that, you could come in with little to no education past that, and really, if you're the type of person that absorbs information well, you can really make this into a career without having that big price tag on certain degrees.
yeah. You said it best. I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do right after I got out of the military. I wanted to become a police officer, and I wanted to get into emergency services. So I just didn't really know the correct path. So I
Mhm.
did security, and years ago, that's what most people did while they were on their wait list. To be called by PD or the fire department, they would do security just to kind of get a basic foundation and understanding of laws. I bring this up in training class, but I want to give it away now. I always ask students, what are the three branches of government? Really important things that people need to know for just a good foundation for security, for being a first responder. Um, there are so many free things out there, and that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing these. Some things are out there and people don't know about them, like FEMA. FEMA has a laundry list of free programs and certifications. Most of them will give you like a half a credit or a full credit, and you can kind of put those to your college degree. So I always enjoy, giving people information, getting them on their path to be successful as well. Are there any other continuing education programs that you would recommend or advise people to look into?
Well, I think you mentioned it real quick before. Some of the courses that involve health, right, and medical incidents, right. That's going to be my next goal, right, to get a little bit more knowledge on the medical side of it, right. As security officers, we are the first responders. We're not the first responders, but we're the first person there on scene, right.
Yeah.
Um, and we deal with a lot of medical emergencies all the time. And the more equipped you are to deal with that medical emergency, the more chance that person has of surviving, right. It
Yeah.
takes ambulance sometimes 5, 10, 15, sometimes longer, however many minutes it takes for them to get on site. The important thing is that you're there, you're trained in this, whatever the situation entails, and you're helping that person, right? So I definitely would suggest to everybody to, again, get as many certifications as you can. And once you have gotten enough security certifications, move on to the medical aspect of it too. Get your first aid, CPR, AED, get your Narcan certification. Know what to do if somebody's having a seizure. The rescue position, all that different type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I always kind of tell security guards, especially when they're new, CPR, AED, first aid, well worth the investment. It's
Mhm.
something that looks great on a resume, but something that you're probably going to use more with your family or children or your spouse or your parents. Especially with CPR, you kind of talked about the response time with EMS. So just New York City, you're able to kind of look that information up. It's changed. Obviously, depends on things going on, if there's budget cuts, traffic and gridlock, but the average response time, as of 2020, I believe was the last time I looked into it, was between 4 and 6 minutes
Yeah.
for EMS, to arrive on scene for a medical emergency.
Hmm.
Um, with CPR, you really only have a certain window to get them some kind of initial care. Same with, Narcan or depending on the injury, a broken bone or severe bleeding. That's stuff that is just really, really good to have. Makes your resume look good. FEMA, like I said, great thing to look into. It's free, hundreds of courses. Some of them apply to security. Some of them are more emergency management related, but they have active shooter, retail theft, basics of security. Just free stuff. Take advantage of it, folks.
Yeah,
Really,
absolutely.
really.
The
I've
knowledge
had
is out there. You just gotta go find it.
Yep. I said, I have a binder. I'm not even kidding you. Probably, and everybody laughs at me when I show them this. I have a binder, probably about 500 different certifications, licenses, degrees. I just want to be that guy that has all that information, so I can give it to those who want it as well.
Absolutely.
And our final question for the day, Caesar, what has been your most memorable class so far?
I think the most memorable class so far is the first one I ever taught. Right? I know we're talking about classes that we've actually taken, and I think, like I said, that for CPR, first aid, AD, probably the most memorable because that's they're actually giving you real life um, real life skills to save somebody, right? But outside of that, my most memorable class was the first one I taught. I was so nervous. um, I didn't know how I was gonna do, right? And then this it got to the point where I was just about to teach the class. It's like 15 minutes before the class is starting, and I was just like, Caesar, just shut your brain off, do what you know, right? Read from the notes. I'm a prepared person most of the time. Read from the notes. You can do it, and yeah, I just shut that part of my brain off. I taught the class. It was great, and it kind of gave me a sense that wow, I really can do this. I can impart the knowledge that I have onto others, and I'm grateful to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Folks, if you've taken a training class with Caesar, drop a comment. What did you like? What was fun? What did you take home? We would love to know. Caesar, those are all of the questions that we had for you today. But there's a bonus round. If you've seen these episodes before, you know I like to have a little fun at the end. So what we're going to do to you is a little this or that. Do some
Okay.
rapid fire, some fun questions. I'm gonna
I
just
like
throw stuff out there. This is not like the cow thing.
that.
It's more of a get to know you kind of a deal. So, are you ready?
Yes. Let's
All
go.
right, there's some good ones and some tough ones. What would you rather give up, pizza or ice cream?
Oh, pizza.
All right, that's a tough
I know I'm
choice.
gonna get killed because we're in New York, but yeah, ice cream all day.
All right, what is worse, lose all of your family photos? I think I know the answer to this already, or lose your wallet.
Oh, I could replace ID cards. Those family photos are priceless.
Yeah, they'll come mess you up after the answer you gave earlier. I'm sure of that. Um, who would you rather meet, your favorite actor or musician?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I favorite actor. Favorite actor.
That's a tough. Yeah, everyone I ask is kind of 50-50 on that. Who is your
Yeah,
favorite actor?
probably Denzel Washington or Will Smith.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, the fun one, emergency management. Would you rather go to the beach during a hurricane or to the mountains during a blizzard?
Ooh. Uh, Beast during a hurricane. Maybe there's a crazy surfer out there that might need CPR later.
Possible, possible. We pulled that one. We do a series, worst case scenario. We just put up all of the worst things that can happen. Oh, that was a funny one.
I'm afraid
Would
of
you
avalanches, by the way. Avalanches seem like the scariest thing ever.
Too cold for me?
Yeah.
Would you rather date or marry someone taller than you or shorter than you?
Ooh. I don't. It's all right. Either one is fine, but I get shorter. I get shorter.
Be tall. I got you. What do you prefer, baseball or football?
Ooh, that's tough. My grandfather's gonna want me to say baseball, but when you're sitting down watching a good football game, yeah, those guys can do some pretty amazing things. Those
Mike,
one-handed catches, and they're just jumping in the air, and they're hitting each other. Probably football.
I totally agree. I mean, I love baseball. I'm a Yankees fan, but football is just wild these days.
Yeah.
Insane. All right, this is a fun one. Fanny pack or cargo pants?
Oh, cargo pants. Come on,
Day
easy,
long.
easy one, easy one.
This is important. This came off of one of the first ones that we did, health wise for security. Right, you gotta be in good shape. What's better? 3 mile run every single day, or do 100 push-ups a day?
Ooh, my cousin is a personal trainer, actually. Yeah, he competes in bodybuilding competitions and everything. And I know from his instruction that you need a combination of both. You need to get your cardio in, and you need to build up that muscle strength too. So I can't pick one, but I will say I do more running than I do push-ups.
I would think you don't have to do 100 at a time. If you just did 10 every hour, that's pretty easy to get to throughout the day.
That's how they try to sell you on it. And then I'm like on my third set of 10, and I'm like,
I tried to do 10 the other day. I almost passed out, and Bruce had to pick me up off the floor. Fun stuff. All right, now let's check your character, sir. Would you rather be a rebel outlaw or a brave knight?
Brave Knight. Brave Knight.
Good man, good man. All right, be in an 80s rock band or a 90s rap group?
90s rap group. Hands down.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
90s rap group.
I would agree. It seems like they had a lot more fun. I did a podcast with one of the agencies. Great chat. We had a really good talk about 90s rap group. Probably like some of the best music ever. I know I'm getting a lot of comments from people. No, my music is better now. You old fart. Very important question. Always be on time or always be right? Which is more important?
Always be on time. Always be on time. One of my professors in college used to tell me, when you speak in absolutes, you're absolutely wrong.
Oh,
So I always think about that. So always be on time.
that's a good one. I agree. And lastly, would you rather reward people for being good or punish people for being bad?
Reward people for being good, hands down. People punish themselves enough, right? We gotta, especially as instructors, we gotta be the ones to see the potential and reward um, good trends, right? That we see in our guards and our students, and so on and
Sure.
so forth.
That's a really important thing. I agree with you. That's very well said, Caesar. People beat themselves up all of the time. It's very easy to do, and people just kind of expect you as a security guard to always do the right thing. And sometimes, people see other people getting away with certain things and just kind of deviate from their character. So we should reward people for doing the right thing. Absolutely. Sometimes security feels like, yo, I got to go get that bad guy. I got to get that person who didn't show ID. I got to mess that person up who disrespected me. So we got to reward good behavior. Really, really good stuff. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Would love to hear your comments. If you have any questions for Caesar or for me, put them down in the comments. We will definitely get back to you. Caesar, really, really fun. I know I bugged you enough. I finally twisted your arm. Thank you for jumping in on this, talking about your background and your experience as a trainer. All the information, folks, if you want to register, is down below, guardiangroupservices.com. Caesar, thank you once again. Any words you want to leave upon our guests and students?
Yeah. So one, in the security industry, it's very important that you work on your communication and that you check your ego at the door. And then the last thing, just be safe.
Awesome. Very well said. I always like to leave off. I'm going to give two for you, students, two things for you, anybody in this industry. Just continue with training. There's free things out there. Build your resume, build your skill set and your mindset. And to echo you, Caesar, build up on your communication and interpersonal skills. It's a lost art. You got to learn how to deal with people. Caesar, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure having you, folks. Stay safe, stay alert, stay alive.
Have a
Ooh.